The Greens attract a big enough share of votes to have an influence on federal politics because of people's concerns about climate change and other environmental issues, and those people include myself. But the Greens continue to distinguish themselves with economic policies that would be extraordinarily damaging if they were ever implemented on a federal level, and especially their policies on the residential housing market. If all the Greens' policies targeting the rental market were implemented, they would turn a rental shortage crisis into, I believe, an historic catastrophe. Now, in seeking to justify their crackpot policies on the residential rental market, Greens leader Bandt has been happy to make some outlandish claims about the state of play in the rental market. And by outlandish, I mean blatantly exaggerated, inaccurate, and downright dishonest. I was recently on national television while being interviewed on the ABC that Bandt made this claim: rents are rising 6 times faster than wages. Now, perhaps the Greens leader thought that he could get away with that outrageously incorrect claim because journalists these days seldom challenge or check anything the way that journalists traditionally have done in the past. But in this case, the ABC did do some fact-checking, and their conclusion was Mr. Bandt's claim is overstated, and I thought that was putting it mildly and rather kindly. Now, if we use the rental component within the Consumer Price Index, which is published regularly by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, rents in Australia increased by 4% in 2022. Meanwhile, wages grew only a little slower than that, by 3.3%, as measured by the ABS over the same period. The ABC noted that rental increases have varied from one location to the next, and that different research sources have different figures, caused by differences in samples and methodology. Now, what Bandt did, in keeping with the great tradition amongst Australian politicians of being very selective with statistics, was to focus on the most extreme results in the market and then try to claim this was what was the norm across the nation, which is both false and dishonest. Now, the ABC concluded that a small percentage of renters, essentially those taking on new leases as tenants, estimated to represent maybe 2 or 3% of the market each month, may have experienced rental increases in the order of 6 times the growth in wages. But the ABC said this was not typical across the entire market. Now, if Bandt really believes rents are rising that much compared to wages, he could make a useful contribution if he focused on why rents are rising, and that is the shortage in rental properties right across Australia, and then develop some policies to deal with that problem constructively. If he did that, he might realise that all of his core policies on property, like scrapping negative gearing, increasing the capital gains tax, and passing laws preventing the increases in rents according to market forces, it would make this serious situation a whole lot worse. He would have to develop different policies, ones that actually encourage investors, not punish them. And that evidently would be incompatible with the general Greens philosophy that all property investors are greedy rich bastards ripping off the system and therefore people who need to be squashed.